Hello everybody, hope you're doing okay. Just a few moments and we'll get right on into it. I just couldn't sleep, so you know what, thought sod it. I know, I'll start the computer and do a nice gentle cruise in the 747 Classic by Felis, one of my favourite aircraft ever made for the flight sim. I think actually any flight sim, but certainly XPlane. There's, you know, I really like to fly the plane where you have to use your brain a little bit. None of this automated FMC McDo business. Again, has its place, but, you know. Jumping on over then, let's ease off the music and bring in the game sounds. Flying today, I don't think I've ever flown with them before, Avianca Colombia. Which fits suitably for South America. Not that we are flying Colombia, but, you know, ballpark region. This is actually one of the most southerly airports anywhere in the world. It's right on the southern tip of South America. And in fact, if I can bring in a little overlay, can perhaps give you guys a little idea on what's going on. So there we see we're right on the southern tip there of South America. We can see we've got a little bit of weather, and our flight plan is to take us around 300 or so nautical miles to the north. By the time we've done SIDS and stars, that may be a little closer to 350. Other things to note, I took the real world time. Excuse me one sec. I took the real world's time and I just moved it by about an hour. And the reason I did that was because it was getting a little bit dark. And not that I mind the dark, but it's just going to give people watching the stream a little bit more to see. Hopefully we'll be pulling in at the far end just as it gets into sunset or something like that. Hopefully there. So yeah, people getting on board, let's jump in. Not too much waffle. Completely cold and dark, and it would seem that the only thing that has any sign of life when it's cold and dark is this little red digital clock readout, a bit like those old school digital alarm clocks that you used to get that were always red on the liquid crystal. And it would seem that that's about it. Of course, our little tablet working, but, you know, we bring that in the aircraft with us, and so there is that. All right, well, let's get rid of the map overlay. I think you've seen that enough. Current time zones appear as thus. Time of me filming there in the middle. Yes, it's 1:15 in the morning. I know, I said I couldn't sleep. And they can see some other major cities right now at the time. And if you're watching live, well, there you go. So we'll fold that one away. And again, the departure and arrivals there, as well as our flight number, Avianca Colombia 742. See if you can figure out where that flight number came from. And there's the ICAO departures and arrivals. Sierra Alpha Whiskey Hotel to Sierra Alpha Whiskey Charlie. All right then, so coming inside, we'll take a look at the charts. We've got those here. Looks like Malvinas, Argentinas to El Calafate. I'm probably butchering it, but you know, it is what it is. And there we can see the release there. Already the 20th of January 2023. This time tomorrow we'll already be entering our 4th week into this year. How time flies. Cruising at 40,000 feet at Mach 85. Of course, there'll be somebody that says, he thinks it can go 85 times the speed of sound. No. All right, let's get some power on in then. I believe the ground crew have got us plugged in. It's just a matter of turning it on. And indeed, we've got chocks, ground power unit, as well as some of the external doors. We can see there we've got air bridge up front. We've got some stairs at the back. Catering and cargo already there. So let's jump on over to the engineers panel. Of course, this one completely fully simulated, unlike the Concorde's engineers panel, which is like 10% simulated and the rest a little ways to go. Let's see then. So if I can remember where the switch is, there we go. Battery. Standby power. That clicks on, that gets the little displays down here. Let's close the external powers. My side, your side, and again the crazy ampage usage. Very temperamental. By the way, this is the latest open beta from Felis, and one of the big fixes has apparently been the sort of wiggly autopilot, you know, when there's a little bit of turbulence that have been added into XPlane to make it feel a little more alive as you're flying along. The autopilot was very wiggly. Apparently that's been fixed in the last 3 or 4 days, so we'll see if that's the case. So yeah, with power there on, we'll turn galley bus number 1, and that's going to enable us to have a cup of coffee. Coming down here, we'll leave everything else as is. I just want some backlighting on the panels, and we'll tinker with that as we go. Of course, we've got our electric hydraulic pumps here. That's going to enable us to get some hydraulic pressure. And if we take a look at the front there, we can see we're low on pressure for the brakes. So we're going to require this. That's going to put pressure in there. And then if we come to the front, now we see that light is no longer on. I'm just going to cycle the parking brakes just to make sure that they're fresh on. So we'll disconnect. And we'll brake set. And now with the high hydraulic pressure, they're going to be fresh. So when the chocks disappear, we shouldn't roll off. I think this airport not completely flat, so worth doing. Radio masters 1 and 2. And let's begin aligning the systems with it. My side, your side, and the flight engineers. The align lights coming on 1 through 3. Anti-skid on. Emergency lights will arm. And then we'll get the nav and the logo lights to come on. Dome light can stay off, but I do want, again, the background lights here as well for the overhead. That looks to be about right there on the overhead. Anything else while I'm up there? I think that's it. Let's come downstairs. Continue with the lighting panels. Set that up nicely. And again, with the sun setting down here in South America, we certainly want to make sure that these panels are somewhat correct there. Clear out the MCs 1, 2, 3. So let's begin the alignment then. Even though we've got the switches on, it's not automatic in these old schools, and we need to repeat it 3 times. So we'll clear to continue, and we'll just go for location ID. It's going to be quicker. And quick reminder there, we see it's Sierra Alpha Whiskey Hotel, and so that's what we're going to go with. Clicking on these orange dots lets me type that in. Sierra Alpha Whiskey Hotel. Enter, 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 and then click on the orange dots so I get my keyboard back. Sierra Alpha Whiskey Hotel. Enter, verify the time. Well, it's 20 past... Yeah, this is slightly off. You see it says 20 past midnight. That is because, again, I wound the clock back in the game by an hour just to give us that extra bit of light. So that is correct. And then it's the 20th of January 23. Yes. Give me my keyboard back. And then same again down here. Clear. Scroll down. Sierra Alpha Whiskey Hotel. Yes. 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 Bring it back. Okay, so we're done there. Let's take a look at the flight plan. We'll start loading people in. Avi tab. Let's come over to page 3. We've got 354 passengers. And by the way, weights are in pounds. So fuel, payloads, everything, we're talking pounds. So let's make a quick note of this. 354 packs. We've got 21.6 on the cargo. And that gives us payload of 83.5. And with a 0 fuel, well, you know, sometimes doesn't always match, but what's important that does match there, that we have at least 56.2 in on fuel. And again, the flight, you know, somewhere between 350 if we include SIDS and stars, 360, it's about 300 or so nautical miles. I think if we was to go just as the crow flies, no steering at all. In any case, those are the basic pieces of information that we need. Let's come over then to the refuel. Apparently we've got 185,000 currently on board. So let's drain by about that much. Gonna leave us 62. I realize that's a few pounds over, but as we found, this aircraft does use slightly more than what SimBrief says. I'm tempted to go instant just because that's quite a lot, but you know what? If it's still messing around when we're ready to go, we'll hit cancel and we'll instantaneous the last bit. But it is draining there very quickly. We can see it's almost 100 pounds a second, so I think we can get away with that. So that's the fuel sorted. Let's come over to the payload. And again, people to board is 354. Thank goodness Felis lets you just flick and spin the mouse wheel, because otherwise we'd be here all day on that. 354. Payload total is 83.5. And 40. Well, no, we didn't. We ignored 0 fuel. Let's just go with the passengers then and the cargo, which is 21.6, and so to the nearest 1,000, that's going to be 22. I can't actually put the individual hundreds in. That's going to give us the following results. So, well, we're still under 500 on the 0 fuel weight. Once we've got the fuel in, that's going to be over. Of course, it's not going to be that extreme because we're still waiting on fuel to be drained. And let's begin boarding the passengers as well as the cargo. Cargo is going to go really quite quickly. Passengers not so quick. And in addition to the weights here, we also have 19 crew on board. Felis clearly counts those 19 crew as weight, which makes sense. Not something that SimBrief accounts for. I guess the only way, if you really wanted to make it match up, is subtract 19 out of the passengers so that overall the people match, and I guess that'll get closer, but not something we're going to worry about today. We will check back to what the takeoff CG is once all of this is complete. Looks like for now it says 27. We'll see if that's still the case once it's done. Okie doke. So coming now over, we need to begin programming in the flight plan. Avitab, and if we take a little look further through the pages, does it show us a visual? And yes, it does. Alright, so here we are. So here's the Antarctica. This is sort of a top-down view of the South Pole. If anything, we're used to seeing the North Pole there in the middle, but this is the South Pole. Here we see South America and the 2 airports there. So brief view, we can see actually how far south we really are. Yeah, so not, you know, what's that, 10, 20, 30, about 35 degrees or so away. So yeah, if we roll the ring round, we can see we're actually a lot further south than New Zealand. Here we see New Zealand. We're still another 10 degrees further beyond that. We're in this block here. And about another 20 degrees or so further south than South Australia. So yeah, I think it's about as far south as you can go without actually being on Antarctica. There are a couple of airports onto Antarctica, and I have been there in XPlane 11, but trying to visit on XPlane 12, it's just water. So perhaps something that Austin needs to look at some point. Maybe if I remember, I'll write him in later. But regardless, next page, here we can see some funky weather systems taking place down here with some what looks like insane winds down here. Thankfully, we'll be avoiding most of those. Looks like we've got some isolated embedded CBs up to around 40,000, which is where we are. So we'll have to keep an eye out on that. We've got more. Yeah, we'll just keep an eye out what's going on there for weather. It's not a very high detailed area, this, because this is covering a huge area, and with such crazy weather systems, it's going to be quite difficult. So let's go to beginning to enter the route then. So coming here, page 3, we've got with the weights, page 4, here's our departure. And we're on the, what looks like the USO 2 Bravo departure. So let's take a little look at what that means. So here we are on the ground at the terminal. Nice long runway, 9,200 feet. But do we have 80s here? We do 127.8. We may as well listen to that while we continue programming in. 127.8, by chance that would seem to match. So yes, last time I flew this aircraft somewhere, there was an 80s that was the same frequency. But with that on and turned up, let's hope they come in. May as well tune our transponder, which we were going to go 7, 4, 7, 2. 10 points for whoever figures out why. Yeah. Alright, so 8 is not seeming... Well, it doesn't seem to be rushing through. So we will go with the weather that we have on our charts, which were only generated a few moments ago. So departure, here we go. Winds 280 at 5, so we will take off on the westerly runway. Visibility clear, I think that means volcanic ash, potentially scattered at 3,500, broken at 8,000, temperatures 12, dew point 8, QNH 1005. So let's dial that one in. 1005. Same on the standby. Do your side copy. Yes. Flight engineers. 1005, which is, there's 2. So that's going to be 4. There's 5. So that's about 2967. So 2967. There we go. All right, all that checks out. Coming up top, INS's the align light has gone out, so in theory they're good to go, which means that we can change power source or begin moving the aircraft when we're ready. Let's come down now to the waypoint page. We'll start programming these in. So yeah, we're expecting the westerly runway. Let's have a little look. That's going to be 25. Let's see if that is what our flight plan says. Coming back now to page 4. Or rather, yeah, 25. Hang on, let's just verify this entirely. We'll come over, is it page? No, it's page 2. Sweetie. Your foot's gotten stuck. There we go. There we go. Pussycats come to join us as co-pilots, all sorted. Yeah, so runway 25 indeed is the USO 2 Bravo departure, and looks like our initial waypoint is going to be a VOR. So coming back over to the airport page, let's see if how difficult or not this departure is going to be. Plus, you're going to have to settle if you want to sit with me, sweetie. No, you can't hang off my arm, darling. I need to fly and use She loves to hang off my arm when I'm sat on desk. Alright, so this is a nice little funky one. So 25 is clearly... Sorry, darling, you're going to have to go down. So 25 is clearly from right to left, so this way, and so that's going to bring us round onto this 180-degree turn left-hander over the, what do you call this, a river? It's not really, it's like, these are almost like, well, you'd call them fjords, wouldn't you? Fjords, and in any case, left-hand turn after 400, so turning around. Looks like we've got a lock DME to cling onto here on 1130, so we may as well get that guy tuned in. We already know it's runway 25, so heading 254, so let's get that one in there. After the turn, well, lock DME. I'm thinking, just in case it all goes wrong, we'll set the course as well for 254. And this turn here, 070. After there, looks like we intercept Bushaya VOR on the outbound, which is going to be 1370, and that is on the 093 radial, so that's on your side. That takes us to this spot here, which is going to be 14 DME on the 093 radial, and then at that point it's a left-hander 347 and to the Rio Grande VOR, which is 117.30 or 117.30, and I think that should be my first waypoint. So Golf Romeo Alpha, so let's come down here, waypoint 1, enter, keyboard Golf Romeo Alpha, yes, position and the lat long. I'm just going to take the lat of 53 south, come over, and although it says not to scale, here we see 54 south, and so I'm almost for sure if we go a bit further that's going to say 53. We also see here the country code ARG, so yeah, let's accept that. And then the next waypoint, I just hide that, wrong word, just pause that there. Let's bring this one here so we don't got to keep swinging the view round. After GRA, well, we've got an airway, Uniform Whiskey 42. This old school LTN 92 can't do airways, so after GRA and it's Uniform Whiskey 42, the best way to see what those waypoints are is actually refer to our flight plan. So here we see Golf Romeo Alpha, the 1730 VOR, we've got that in. Here's the start of the airway, and we can see first waypoint, top of climb is obviously not a waypoint, but it's in there, is Mubez, so let's get that in. After Mubez, we're dropping through a couple of controllers. Then we've got Gal VOR, Rio, let's just call it Galileo. It looks close like it. Perhaps a silent G on the end. And Argentina, we see that's 51 south. There we see 51 south. So that's a definite solid confirm. After there, it's top of descent over to Devis. And then from Devis, page 5. We're on the Devis 1 Quebec arrival. I'm not going to insert that until we're in the flight, reason being, although it's nice that they've dropped us down a star, I want to confirm that is indeed the case. But I am going to then just put the end destination in, for now, waypoint 5, just in case it all goes horribly wrong. We do have RNAV, if you like, navigation to our end destination here. SAWC. Okie doke, so with that we'll accept that. That's the waypoints in. Let's get rid of that. Coming now over to the remote. Clear remote and master. Enter. It's coming over here. Remote slave. Yes. Same over here. Remote slave. So your side and flight engineers is ready to copy the waypoints we've put in here, all 5 of them. So let's hit enter. System B and C is ready, go. And we know we're aligned, so that's great. So with the crossfill complete, let's come over here. Let's get the APU booted up. So we'll turn it on, wait for the door to open. And with the door now open, let's start up the APU. Bleed is closed. APU's booting. Yeah, went lay down to go to bed, and this one of those. I've had this cold, you know, it's gone now basically, but like every few days I get this little bit of a dry cough, and like every 10-15 minutes I get it. So I'm getting quicker on the mute buttons so it's not blowing anybody's ear out. APU up and running. But every 10 or 15 minutes is just enough to prevent you from nodding off to sleep. So here, 2 hours on. Let's do it this way. So with the APUs up and running, usually you have to wait a minute or so, but with these insane ampage usages, let's just try. My side first, we'll hook it in. Your side second, we'll hook it in. That's grabbed it nicely. Let's get APU bleed valve open. We see duct pressure coming up. Open the engine valves, 1, 2, 4, 3. And I'm just going to give the packs 1. They're coming up. Pack 2. They're coming up. And pack 3. And we'll give all the 3 packs just the 50%. We'll put the gaspers on as well. And recirc 1. Trim air will enable that, and we'll turn these down to about the 10 or 11 o'clock position. Bit more in back. If any stewardess moans it's too cold, work the shift at the back of the plane. Alright. With APU now powering the aircraft as well as giving us air conditioning, I'm going to return the other fuel pumps on. Let's come over here and see how our refuel, well, that has completed. Payload, passengers, people to board, that has completed. Yeah, so great. Let's ground. Let's close all the doors. Disconnect ground power unit, seeing as we've got our own power now.
Disconnect ground power.
And ground handling, I'm just going to say hide all just to make that process a little quicker.
Ground power disconnected.
Coming over to performance calc then. I could just click this to grab the numbers, and sometimes, you know, it's just a quick, easy way of doing it. But let's do it ourselves this time. So flaps 20 for departure, always late. Takeoff weight, and again we're in pounds. So coming over to the flight engineers panel, he's keeping track of it, 549.1. And with this being to the nearest 10,000, it's going to be 550, right? Let's just check that. Yep, 550. Takeoff CG. Well, let's come to the payload. Takeoff CG, we see it 0 CG and takeoff 27.0. So it was actually correct right at the start of us asking to load the aircraft. I recall it being 27.0 there as well. So takeoff CG, we'll wind that over to 27. Runway length we discussed was about 9.2, and airport elevation, as we can see, is down to around 100 feet there, so we'll drop that down. Runway heading, it's about 260. Runway slope, we'll leave that 0. Runway conditions, well, we can see it's dry. Outside air temp, we'll just grab what we see, and static air temp there, plus 11. We'll take it. Barometric is, according to the ATIS, 29 2968. We got it in QNH, but converted over to altimeters there, 2968. And the winds, even though we had no ATIS, according to the flight plan, so scratch what I was saying about ATIS, but it was in the flight plan, it was a westerly wind at around 5 knots. I don't want to scroll all the way down to the bottom of that chart, but it was 5 knots, give or take 10 degrees or so, so it's going to be fine. That gives us the following V speeds. 117 is the decision, rotating on 24, and a V2 of 141 together with the flat retraction schedule. Trim at 3.6, need to make a note of that. 3.6 initial is 16 degrees. Climb, and the optimum speed there, 300 kts once we're up and away. And yeah, so let's hit that to set the speed bugs, and as long as we've got V2 in the window, which we now have, there we see V2 together with the decision and the rotate speed, that is all good to go. We'll remind ourselves on takeoff procedures or the departure when we're on the way. But for now, I think we're ready to ask for push and start. Yeah, I think we're good to go. We've got localizer in on my side. We've got the VOR of the airport in on your side. There is no standby VOR freak on this aircraft, which, you know, it really feels like it's something missing. But per the departure procedures, and I am going to have to make a little note on it because we need to refer to it quite quickly here, Rio Grande at 117.3, so GRA 117.3. And just in case something goes wrong, I'll just remind myself here, the airport here, USU, which we've already got tuned in on your side, is 113.7. So we're just swapping around the 2 digits here, 17.3 and 13.7, and the LOC DME for the ILS, that's in on my side. And again, if it all goes wrong, that's already tuned in, and that is 111.30. And runway heading, which yeah, we've just pulled off the chart here, it's 254 degrees. Further departure then, no turns until 400 feet or above, and to give myself a reminder off that, I'm going to knock 50 to 60 feet off for this, put that onto the radar, and so that's going to be something like 340 feet above the ground, add the 60 feet that we're above sea level, is going to equal about 400 feet. So once we see that going through that yellow triangle, that's going to be a reminder that we can start the left-hand turn. And again, that turn onto a heading of 070 degrees. Until we intercept the 093 USU RAD. And then that continues until we're 14 DME. At which point we need to be above 4,500. So this is our brief now, and then after that it's a left-hander 347 to the next VOR, and at that point we'll be looking to switch over to the INS or your LTN 92 system. Alright. Again, we'll refer back to that, but we will turn the aircraft icon off because it is cheating. You didn't have aircraft positions on the paper charts. And even if you do on iPads, I don't think it's legal to use it. Perhaps somebody let us know, but I don't think it's legal to use over here then. Let's get the taxi chart in. I don't mind using it for the ground, just for simplicity, but in the air where we've got radio beacons and whatnot. Yeah. I think I'll switch this over to the night mode for now. And again, if it does get a little dark once we're on the way, we'll sort it out. But for now, shifts. Where are we here? Shift G, is it? Yeah. Get rid of the air bridge. Away it goes. And let's get rid of the chocks and all, and we'll plan. Remove the chocks.
Remove the chocks.
And for push and start, looks like it doesn't really matter which way we go, although this taxiway definitely looks the wider one. So yeah, this way, tail to the right, nose to the left. I think that'll do nice.
Ground to cockpit. Canon knowledge. Coming through the menu when you are ready.
Accent sounds very believable for South America, and yes, we are ready when you are. Thank you.
Ground to cockpit. SAWH is driving up.
Brilliant. V speeds are in. Initial climb should be something that to look at, really. Well, we've got an MSA there of 10.5. We're trending slightly east, so at least for now, I'm going to stick with 11. Yeah, so I'm going to try, see if I can decode what I've scribbled down here while this guy gets ready to push us back. Let's get the signs on. We'll close the cockpit door.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking.
Play the welcome. We'll get the beacon lights on.
Classic. We will depart shortly after we have our
Okay, all doors and
preparations.
hatches are closed. Ready to connect.
Now I wish you a pleasant flight, and I will be back during the flight with further flight information.
Great. Well, arm body gear steering, start a valve. Well, when he starts hooking us up, we'll do that. Coming over here, the cabin and everything is nice and warm, ready to go. Fuel pumps are on and ready, with the exception of the center tank, which is empty. So let's turn the gasper and let's just turn the packs off so we're ready to go as soon as he is. Cruising, actually, let's just have a quick check. I forgot we need to put the height in here. And yeah,
Connected and bypass being inserted. Release parking brake.
we're going to be cruising at 40, and the manual for the 7.4 says, so you put your cruise in plus 1,000 to just ease on the stresses, and so that's what we're going to do. Beacons on.
Parking brake released.
Starting pushback, and you may start engines.
Fantastic. So, start valve on. Packs are off.
Ready for engine start.
APU bleeds on. Engine bleeds are open. And so let's, today we'll start System 2, Engine 2.
Starting engine 2. Start valve open.
Releasing the switch. And 2's coming up. Yeah, so after we cross the yellow icon here, it's the left-hander to 070. Then we're going to intercept the 093 USU radial, which is tuned in on your side. There's the radial. And just remind myself, switch engine. Was it 2 or 3? It was 2, wasn't it? Yes, so let's get fuel on for number 2.
Light up. Starter off.
System 2, engine 3.
Starter valve open.
Once we intercept the radial, we'll track it outbound until we read 14 DME. Once we're at 14 DME, we'll ensure that we are at or above 4,500 and a left-hander to 347 direct to GRAVOR, and at that point we'll look to switch over to the INS.
20% and 2.
Yeah, so satisfied with that. Fuel in for number 3. Coming over.
Light up.
Let's start
Starting
1
engine 1.
Starter off.
and start 4.
Starting
Operation
engine
complete.
4.
Set parking brake.
Starter valve open.
Standing on the
Engine
brakes and parking brakes.
Parking brake set.
Disconnecting tow. Stand by.
Thank you. Engines continuing to start. How are we doing? Almost ready for the fuel.
20% and 2. 20% and 2.
I'll make sure
Fuel
that's
on.
all the way up.
Light up.
There we go. Your side's
on.
ready as
Starter
well.
off.
Light up.
Starter off.
Give the guy outside the signals.
Engine stabilized.
And worth updating these, so we'll go status,
stabilized.
scroll down, expand, and we'll enable RNAV as well as trimixing. And with that, I'm going to view data page down there.
Tow is disconnected and bypass pin has been removed. And signal on the right. We'll see you next time and have a safe flight.
Thank you very much. See you next time. Bye bye. Enable it here, and legs page ready there. Update here as well. Now where are we? Status, scroll down, expand, enable RNAV, and try mixing, and then ready on the legs page. Let's take a look then outside. Where are we? He's giving us the all clear. Engines are up and running, so we'll get rid of the start valves. It's going to be a short taxi, so we'll go for flight start 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, rather. 1, 2, 1, 2, so flight start is on across the board. Body gear steering's armed, anti-skid is on.
Cabin crew, arm slides.
Armed slides. Coming over to the engine panel, let's get the engines that are all started running on bus. 1, 2, 1, 2. Engines are on bus. We'll close the split. Turn the APU bleed off. Engine bleeds are on. We'll get the packs on. 1, 2, 3. Recircs 1 through 4. Gaspers and the supplementals. Trim air's on. Humidifiers off. Galley power 1, 2, 3, 4. Chillers 1, 2, 3. Everything else there. Galley fan auto, and with that APU can cut off in 3, 2, 1. Now everything else there looks good. Fuel pumps are on. High electrical pump there is off. Hydraulics on the engines 1, 2, 3, 4 on auto, and last but not least, cargo heat norm as well. That there now looks good. Must remember to shut the engine bleeds off for the takeoff. That's a standard thing on this, no matter what the runway length is. Now the engine are producing the electric, we'll get the probes and the window heat. My side, your side. Quick check on the airspeed. Over rotation, although I've never heard that, and stall warning. That's all good, that's all good. Good, good, good. Great. Well, quick flight controls check. Looking at this little device down here. So forward, neutral, aft, neutral, roll left, roll right, neutral, left boot and right boot, neutral. Checks are good. Flaps 1, 2, or 5, 10, 20. I think it's 1, 5, 10, 20. No 2 flaps, I don't think. Weather radar, at least it used to do, tank the FPS, so we're not going to do it. EPAS mode, rotate it round, go around, back to takeoff dry. We are relatively light, so I'm going to derate it ever so slightly. We'll put that into EPAS mode. Transponder into transpond mode. No ADFs, at least not that we saw in the immediate area, and so with all of that said and done,
Parking brake release.
let go of the parking brakes. Turn off lights can come on. Any idle taxi? Usually not. and actually looks like we're creeping along ever so slowly, very, very slowly. So there is a tiny bit of speed, but you know what? We're going to increase it a little bit more. Remind ourselves that takeoff trim was 3.6, so let's dial that in slightly forward there. We need to put the green band down to cover that. Initial climb's also going to be 16 degrees, so while we're on the way to the runway, let's get the flight directors, my side, your side, and yeah, shooting for 16 degrees. Of course it caps out at around 15, but that's close enough. There's 10, there's 12.5, and right around there's 15. Actually looks like it caps at about 14, but either way, ATC says we're clear to enter, but a quick glance right and left. Let's put the strobes and the wing lights on, as well as the inboard lights. Quick test on the brakes there, working good, and we've got a little bit of a backtrack. Hi, that was loud. Apologies. Every time there's an update to the Felis 747, you lose all your saved views, which is a little frustrating, and so I'm just going to take the opportunity on this backtrack to move the camera forward and see if we can't set our view from the front as well. I don't want to be upstairs because it's well, yeah, it's one of the problems of trying to taxi using the passenger window, especially when you've got a bit of a crosswind. The plane sort of goes everywhere. And let's be a little more careful. Yeah, so that there is, well, aside from all the mess that was in the foreground, but the angle is kind of what I want. Not too bad. I just don't like this here on the left of the screen. Can we perhaps get a better view from this window? Nearly. What about this one? Just so that we can quickly take a look at it once we're in the air. Actually quite difficult. There we go. That's more or less there. And not too far to go. Alright, let's pick up the pace. And what was min takeoff? Well, where are we here? 54.2. Flight engineer says we're at 60.9. So yeah, those £6,000 or so extra we put in are now used up. So the trim's set, everything else is set. We're almost ready to go. So just so I don't forget, I'm going to turn them off now. Gaspers and whatnot can keep going, but the packs are off. Body gear steering doing its thing. Gotta remember to turn that off as well before we roll. Very nice. We are now going uphill, so need to put a bit of power on. And as soon as we're more or less there, body gear steering away. Alright then, Avianca 742, runway 25, clear for takeoff. Put all the forward faces on. Let's wind them up. And hit the toga, which in this case is the auto throttle. And legs page is going to wait until we're ready to basically intercept Golf Romeo Alpha VOR. Thrust set, accelerating real nice and fast, 80 knots already. Let's increase the volume.
V1, rotate. Positive rate.
Here.
Gear up.
Yeah, so there's the 16. We're well over the point of the turn, so let's begin our left-hander now.
Gears up.
070. There we go. Gonna move thrust from takeoff to max continuous. And flaps 10 degrees.
Flaps 10.
Once I've completed this turn, I'll look at starting to set up the autopilot. Still flying it manually for now, keeping a positive climb going. It's relatively close. Autopilot on then. Keep the vertical speed, make sure we don't bust through 11 at least for now. 070. Now let's switch this over to IAS. Make sure we don't get any slower. And we're looking to intercept this radial that's tuned in on your side, so we've got a little ways to go. I think what I'm going to do, back to VS, reduce my climb to almost nothing. Coming into the back now, turn the packs all on 50%. Fuel heat down here needs to go auto, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Quick check that we're not busting through the radial, and not yet. We'll come up top and turn the start switches off. And we're accelerating, we retract the flaps. Start increasing vertical speed again. And radial needles starting to move over now, so let's move to intercept. Flaps 1. Whoops, flaps 1, there we go.
Flaps 1.
A few more degrees. Increase vertical speed even more, flaps in all the way.
Flaps up.
And we're about there, and we can see DME is counting. So it looks like DME is based on the LOC. Looks like the VOR is VOR only, no VOR DME. And yeah, let's test out the first part of Felis's update. So I'm going to switch over to IAS hold. So we should be keeping us, what's that, about 245, 250. Now there is a bit of turbulence, so we're making allowances for that. But in theory, the autopilot is less wild with its corrections, and at first glance, that certainly seems to be the case. And those of you that remember before, this roll control here, I guess you could call it like an aileron here, it used to be up and down, proper twidgeting. And this looks much more... Oh, that cloud looked well creepy, man. This looks much more like it. So looking good. Now we need to be above 4,500 by the time we're 14 DME. We're now at 11 DME. We're well above 4.5. Climbing like a whole stick angel there. I'm going to reduce from continuous to climb. We'll still keep it derated by 0.03. I think we've got a terrific thing. I should have had that on Tara once we're on the motorway. What am I talking about? Once we're on the said it again. Once we were rolling down the runway, that's what I was trying to say. Once we were motoring down the runway. Coming up to 14 DME then, this is going to begin our left-hand turn. We're on the needles there, left-hand 347. And from here direct to GRA. ATC now says to continue to climb to 24, so we'll put that in 240. And once we are above 10.5, which if you recall was the MSA for the area, we'll begin accelerating as well. Get rid of the outboards, turn offs. I'm going to put that light on. Wing lights, logo can disappear as well. And we'll release cabin crew. Well above 10.5 now, so let's switch this over to the vertical speed and we'll manually drop it to about 1,000, maybe even a bit less. We'll move the gear lever to the off position as well. We'll wait for the speed to come round to about 300. If you recall, that's what we were told based on performance numbers today was our optimum climb. And again, we're very light, so it's going to be a slightly slower speed than if we were heavy, but flip side on that is we're going to climb really fast. And once we do begin that climb, we'll tune in GRA, Grande Summit or other one, it no, it was just Grande something VOR, and there we are already on about 300 knots. Put that over into IAS mode. Now that's going to start climbing like you've never seen. And if we switch on over now to the flight engineers panel, look at these engines guzzling fuel. That always impresses me, just seeing that. First time I feel like I've got a moment to catch your breath after the takeoff. I like to have a little look at this on the old 7.4 and marvel at it spinning, and then a few moments later it dawns on me, that's why they don't really fly these anymore. Unless of course you can fill them. You can't really, passenger cargo wise, whatever, you can't really pay for them. So here we see there is still a little bit of turbulence. Why, that is a really nice outside view. I've never seen XPlane look so good outside at this sort of time of day. That it's not over the top with the colours. It looks nice. That looks really, really nice. As so often, flight sims are just way over the top at certain times of day with it, like, oh, we figured out how to make a red sky at night, so let's go really over the top every single night and every morning. But this here looking much more natural. I like what I see. Alright, GRA is 1730, so let's grab that my side. We're going to lose the DME on the LOC. 1730 tuned in, and that is on the 12 o'clock, around 50 miles to go. So let's see if we can grab that. Again, the heading and the radial should more or less coincide if we've been following things correctly. Well, look at that, it's within about a degree. I will take that any day. We'll go VOR LOC for now. And yeah, autopilot getting way funky with these winds, so I'm going to switch over to VS and we'll manually change it. Doesn't matter if it's exactly 300 as long as it doesn't drop too far either way. And we'll let the aircraft absorb the turbulence and we'll just maintain the trend. We do have a ground speed indicator down here, which is probably the most reliable one that we can use as a nice indicator of how trend is going. See, their ground speed is increasing steadily, which is to be expected as we gain height. Right, so on the way to GRA, we'll grab our legs, which is our first waypoint. So hit enter, there's GRA, enter, and the same on your side, enter, enter. And now if we come, I like to put the flight plan in on my side. We got the distance with the course on your side. Tells me which way to steer, how far to go. And this other one, I don't bother setting that up for GRA, but you know what? We've got time, why not? Legs, GRA, yes, yes. Because I really just like to look at this one for the data. Specifically, you know, we get wind information and you see that's already picking up 67 knots or so. Coming up top then, we're well above 10. Let's get rid of the inboard lights. Nav, beacon, strobes all stay on. Everything else is off. And we're above 20. Looks like the air's smoothed out a tad, so we'll release the packs. Coming in back then, let's get the humidifier on and do a quick cursory check. Fuel pumps are on. We'll open the 1 and 4 reserve. That can trickle on through as soon as it's a short flight. Packs are all on 50%. Differential pressure is currently around 6 psi. Cab vertical speed about 500. Let's reduce that a little bit. There we go, to about 3. Generators 2, 3, 4, all good, as well as 1. Battery and the essentials slightly above. About 1,000 to level off. Now let's carry on going. We're cleared up to 40,000 now. Put VS in there. There we go, 40,000, and there we don't want to shoot through. How are we doing on the speed trend? Well, it's trending up, and so let's put ourselves about 25. After GRA, we've got an RNAV fix Mubez, and then it's GAL. Let's see if we can pull that up on the flight plan. I think we can get a frequency without even having to use Navigraph, which is nice. There's GRA. Yeah, it was Rio Grande. I was thinking Rio Grande. I thought, nah, it's miles away. I think I was thinking Rio de Janeiro. I got it mixed up with, but you know, that's what happens when silly people like to pretend that they're clever and call their channels games with brains. That sort of thing happens. Then we've got GAL here, Rio Galileo. I'm going to just call that whether it is or it isn't, and that's on 1617. As soon as we've got no use for the VOR on your side, let's go ahead. 1670. That's already on range there, getting picked up at 160. And if we take a look down here, GAL, it's there, distance 161. And so within a nautical mile or so of each other, which is real nice. Of course, the VOR is picking it up as the crow flies, whereas this system is threading it through these GRA and then Mubez first. And so that probably accounts for that mile or so that it's off. But very accurate. Barber pole coming down. We are reducing speed a little bit, but I want it to, as the barber pole comes, to reduce a bit quicker. So I'm going to increase vertical speed to around 3,000. And I am now going to restore the D rate we put down here, 0.3. We'll return that to 2, 1, and back to the default setting. I will have a little look at the weather and see if it doesn't lag out the aircraft frame rate. So frame rate there we see is around 41, 42. Let's turn it on. And at least for now hasn't done anything to it at all, which is nice. And let's point the antenna down a few degrees, see if that remains to be the case. Let's push the range out to 150. Turn the dial one more, see if that makes any difference at all. Well, let's point the antenna down even more. That's surely to pick something up. Well, maybe not. Maybe not. Well, as long as it don't kill the FPS, we'll leave it on. Keep it on 150. We'll put the antenna at a more respectable tilt, like minus a degree or so. I realise we're still in a climb, but that's not going to last. Got about 6,000 feet to go. Barber Pole coming down to about 310, 315. We're about let's say about 280, 285. So I'm going to keep that VS going. I don't want to start hearing the ringing and dinging. So far, I feel like I've not forgotten anything too majorly. Did forget to go, what was it, TCAS on the runway, the TARA there. We were left it in just the ground mode, the transponder mode. But aside from that, I think we've got it all. One hell of a vertical speed here. But we are again very light, roaring it in at full power. It looks like we've passed the VOR there. We're now on the way to Mubez, but we didn't yet set that up. So let's put INS my side. And that's going to change my HSI over to the INS. So you can see we're starting to drift to the right now because of it. So I'm going to roll to about 300 degrees. Change this to heading mode. And then as soon as it looks like we're intercepting where we want to be, and again this is now set over to INS mode, not VOR mode, by changing this switch. And that's of course set up to what we put in here. So as soon as basically the plane thinks it is where it kind of wanted to be, I'm going to turn this switch from heading to INS. And it looks like we're going to be intercepting that real quick. I'm going to soften off that intercept angle a bit. Let's, you know what, let's hit it now. 3, 2, 1, see what it does. It looks like it's going to slightly increase the intercept angle by itself and then sort itself out. We do got the cross-track error here. We see it's about 3.8 nautical miles to the right, and that's beginning to collapse because we're currently 25 degrees and more to the left, which makes sense. We're at 40,000 feet. We've still got power on the climb. I'm going to let it accelerate. Looks like... well, cruise on the plan was for 8.5, but I think we can perhaps afford to go a little quicker. We'll see. If we move our speed, where are we? To about, I'm thinking about, well, yeah, we'll shoot for around 270. So to soften our acceleration off, I'm going to change the EPAS mode here from climb to cruise. And then once I see it get real close to this orange triangle, we'll switch the EPA mode over to Mac mode. It's a funky kind of way the auto throttle works on this old classic, but I do really like it. Once you get your head around it, you figure out how to go between your level changes and your continuous thrust versus a certain speed. One thing missing is like fly a certain Mach, but you can do it via flying certain knots really and just translating. There we go, that's close enough, so let's switch over to Mach. And just check that the throttles do move by themselves. And there we see it. And having a quick look, yeah. Autopilot has put us right on the money where it wants us to be. You see, it looks like we're like 3 or 4, well, maybe even 5 degrees off. And if we come down here, that would appear to be because we've got a very strong wind from 293 degrees, about 80 odd knots. And where's 293? Well, it's from this direction. So it's blowing us from left to right. It's also slowing us up a little bit, but mainly blowing us left to right. And I really like this sky. I like that it's not over the top. It's something I think, you know, everybody's had there. Oh, we can do real nice bright red skies every single night. Every flight sim's been through that phase now. Let's turn it down a dial and get it back more into looking what skies really look like on a typical night, not just that one night in 5 years way. And I was out there once, you know, with my camera where the whole, you know, it looked like the sky was on fire, and I was out on the beach. I remember, like, I was the only one there. I'd got up, and I don't know what it was. It was in the summer. I was there at like 4:30, 5 in the morning, and I remember, like, literally feeling excited. And I'm going back a little while now, but alright, well, we know it's not a very long flight, and so I think it's time to start analysing our arrival. And again, we did have to program it in, so just a quick reminder there. Sierra Alpha Whiskey Charlie. And if we scroll up here, we can see 200 bit miles. And so, yeah, the auto throttle, I mean, I guess what Felis was saying was that the throttles don't, you know, they don't twitch it as violently as they used to do, but you can still see we're getting these large movements back and forth, even if they're not as violent. And again, you know, even if, you know, if there's turbulence, I mean, the autopilot's going to do this for sure, even in real life. So, you know, to get around that, and in real life, you get rid of the auto throttle. No other way about it. And then we'll move them physically to... I'm just going to look at the ground speed and ignore up to a point what the airspeed says just because of the turbulence. Still losing. Max speed's now maintaining ish, just a tad more. There we go. I'll have to remember to check back on that in a minute. Alright, CO then. So Sierra Alpha Whiskey Charlie. Let's start looking up the plans. Airport will clear out the hotel. Sierra Alpha Whiskey Charlie. Airport elevation. Well, looks like the number of the beast there has been to visit. ATC ground and tower. Runways 07 and 25. Let's switch over to the actual airport page then. So we've got arrivals, we've got approaches. Let's have a look at the airport before we stick it in the right place. So it's 8,300 and some foot long. Just over 2.5 kilometers. And again, we've got no ATIS info, but if we take a look on our charts, let's see what we were expecting. based on last info to hand. Well, here we go. So we're going to have to roll with this, seeing as we've got nothing newer. Winds 290, 15 gusting 25. So ideally we want to land facing west. Visibility clear, few clouds 4,000. Temperature 25. That's so much warmer than it was where we just came from. I think it was 12 degrees. So here's 25. QNH 1012. Now we do got some forecast stuff in there. Hang on. This is from the 18th. Well, so this is actually 2 days old. Well, regardless, we'll we've got nothing else. Quick check on the speed. That seems to be holding quite well. If anything, it is dropping a tad. So I'm just going to increase the power a little bit. We'll see what else we can get here. Yeah, let's go to about 90% M1. There we go, N1. I think we'll be able to maintain quite nicely. Right then, well, let's have a look at what arrivals we have. And yeah, based on at least what winds we're doing 2 days ago, we'll aim for 2.5. Unless it's very obviously otherwise when we're on the approach. And we'll keep an eye out on this box of tricks to verify that. And we can see here the winds are out the west as well, even higher up. Yeah. Alright, so the arrivals initially, and our final waypoint was Devis. So here we've got Devis, we've got one uniform and one Quebec. Let's check the charts. What were we prescribed? And again, I think the two is, one arrival is going to set up for the easterly approach, one for the westerly. And so here's Devis. Kind of weird, right? Because the airport's 666, and here this is, as close as damn it to the word devil. So yeah, so we're on the Devis 1 Quebec. So this one. And once again, we'll turn the overlays off. So yeah, so we're to come through this fix here, and we estimate to be there in just over 100 miles time. So then it's Whiskey Charlie 018. Now none of these are programmed in. We've only got Devis and then the end destination. So we'll go ahead and put these in now. So Whiskey Charlie 018. Then it's Egbo. And then it's My Gut. And then a hold potentially, and then onto Ponro, which appear to be the initial approach fix. Ponro. Alright, after then we've got our, let's get rid of this because I like to have the airport backwards when it's landing. At the start when we're preparing to go, but now it's the arrival first, the approach second, and then the airport page third when we're coming in. So speaking of approaches, now we know it's one of the westerly ones, so it's a toss-up between these three. course, we've got the RNP option as well as the VOR, but you know what? Let's have a look at VOR just because, well, got the Zulu one. Approach transition. We're kind of coming from the south, aren't we? So from about here, Whiskey Charlie 334. It seems to be that we're coming from that sort of angle if you look here. So we could do the VOR just to, you know, add on to our workload, because of course ILS, you know, we know it works. It's little, just like to keep things interesting. Last time I tried the VOR, I remember I accidentally, I'll show you the switch that it was. I was zooming in with the mouse and I accidentally zoomed in on that, and it caused the dial to turn, and as soon as it turned even slightly, it threw the autopilot off and I was unable to get the autopilot to work again, even with turning that. So I'd like to see some sort of cover, or at least when you're zooming in and out, be really careful you don't touch any of these, because it'll just mess up your autopilot, and the only way to get it back is to reload the entire plane. Yeah, so I think I'm going to try going for the VOR here. So once we're at Ponro, I don't know, Whiskey Charlie 334, we'll see how that works out. Let's try it. Where are we? Whiskey Charlie 334. And at that point, really, we want to be thinking about this DME arc anyways, but regardless, we've got Whiskey Charlie 330 over here. That signifies the beginning of the turn. And then we're on our way in. We do got a fix here, which is going to be based off ECA. I'll just call it ECA 141 just based on the height there. So ref ECA bearing sorry, it's the reciprocal of 256, which makes it 076. Yeah, starting to get tired now. And distance of 74. So that's that one in. Expand use. And then the last one here, ECA, and I will call that one 184. Just because it's these 3 digits here, got to give it a unique name in that sort of format. Same again, ECA on the ref, bearing again 076, distance 1.8, and that's letting us know that it's about 0.4 of a mile away from the runway. 1.8. Expand. Okay, all of that's set and done. Let's turn that off. Back to the flight plan page. In fact, remote, we need to copy that over now, just to these two, so the other guy can stay as is. Master, remote, slave, yep. Yep. 13 waypoints. System B, yes. System C, that's That's fine. Currently, what we on? We're about 325, just in case that kicks us off. Crossfill complete. Alright, flight plan. Are we currently en route there? Leg. Yeah, we're on way to Gal, it would seem. Course. Looks like he doesn't know. Leg. So of course, clear, clear. Gal 14. Alright, let's just go direct. GAL, just so we're on the same page here. That one's already set, so we don't need to worry about that one. It's a flight plan my side just to get the distance, or of course the time. Distance between waypoints, that's going to enable me to check all of this is good, which it is. Now, sudden 3,000 odd miles. Had that before as well, when you mistype a waypoint and all of a sudden distance between waypoint says 4,000 or something ridiculous. But for now we're direct there. Let's expand back to the distance. So you can see overall, well, we've got about 150 miles or less to get onto the arc. Speed is dropping off there a little bit, so I'm actually going to add even more power. Let's go to 91%. Something like that, even 92. We'll check back in a couple of minutes. Engineers panel, how we're doing? Well, the reserve tanks are empty, so we'll close those valves off. And so far we've got about 10,000 pounds apiece, apart from number 2 tank, which was used to power the APU. That one's about 200 or 300 pounds shy. It was also the first engine that we started up as well, so perhaps a top tip for the future. We'll start engine 3 first, because engine 2 was used for the, or rather tank 2 was used for the APU. Let's get some background lighting on. It's getting a little dim. There's circuit breaker lights on as well. That's looking nice. And wow, still impressed with the sunset, which we've been sort of chasing a little bit, not entirely, but it's managed to give us a nice extended sunset versus not. I think it's time to tune in anything that we can over here. Well, we certainly need 1470. That's going to be my side, so 1470. Now we see there 125 miles to go, so this is going to come down real quick now. Do we have anything else over here that we can use? Doesn't look like we've got an NDB. ILS from the far side, there's ECA. That is what we're using. Oh, we'll keep that off then. MSA for the area, well, is 9.1 on this side, sort of the southwestern 180 radial, and then the northeast 180 radial is about 6.2. So we'll have to make sure again that we're intercepting just to the north or the east of the radial here, so our inbound course needs to be 310 or less. Again, if we're coming from here, it's going to be less than 310. If it's greater than 310, our MSA is going to be kind of high at 9.1. And with the range dropping off like this and our height being 40,000 and the speed has indeed recovered with our new throttle setting there, I think it's time to start beginning descent. And at some point it's going to be time as well to switch over manually, but for now, oh yeah, we need to turn the icon off there. But for now, how are we doing with regards? Well, we're now at direct Devis now, 38 miles to go, so we're beelining straight for this star, and it's a straight line all the way in. And we can see here we need to be 11,000 or less, 220 or less by my gut. And so somewhere between 11 and 6. Well, we'll drop down to 11 just so we can retain the speed without holding. So let's set ourselves up for 11. And how are we doing with regards to my gut? Well, 91. We've basically got 30,000 feet to lose as well as the speed. So my gut is the one that I'm specifically interested in, because everything hangs off that restriction. There are no restrictions until then. I think once we are at my gut, we'll switch ourselves over to VOR approach, starting with this 17 DME radial. See, we need to be at 9,000 feet here, flight level 090, and here we see it's 11 down to 6, so we will stop off at 9 so we can try and transition onto this. We'll see how it goes. That's the speed. We're certainly accelerating here. And let's ease off the power a little bit. 83 miles to go. Well, at 90 miles you could argue, well, that's 30,000 feet to lose. You know, it's 30,000 or 29, because we need to be at 11 plus the speed. So let's go for it then. So I'm going to start reducing power nice and smooth, switch over to VS, and I'm going to start dumping it manually for now. Did have a comment left from a real pilot on the older style aircraft, not the 7.4 Classic, but something from that era, and they said that they had to very precisely calculate what vertical speed, and they would use vertical speed for the descent, and it would be based off, you know, how much height, the distance, the speed, as well as winds and so on. And so they didn't just level change it all the way down like what happens today. It was done precisely with vertical speed. Now I'd love to know what what went into that formula, but the way I'm going to do it is we'll continue winding on to about 2,000 for now. I'm going to say 2,000 feet a minute. We've now got what's that, 28,000 feet to go. Well, that's 14 minutes. And if we set this over to ETA, we see 11 minutes there to my gut. Well, that doesn't work with the 14 minutes to descend, does it? So let's increase our VS to, let's try 3,000. When we get to 37, that's going to give us 26,000 we need to lose. 26 divided by 3. Oh, what's that? That's about 8 and a bit, 9 minutes. Well, that does work. That's going to give us a couple of minutes at the end to level off. And we can use that time to slow down to 220 if we are too fast, as well as any corrections for wind and whatnot. So yeah, we'll roll with 3,000. Going in back then. Turn the humidifier off before I forget, not to be used below 10,000, and I will forget. Aircraft fuel, nice and chilly there, minus 30 degrees, not cold enough to freeze, but I don't want to turn the fuel heats off entirely. Not yet. Anything else? Well, I don't think so. Gonna turn the gaspers off just so... You know, it's very loud on the packs. There we go. We'll keep everything else as is, and as we continue descending, I think I'm going to turn the signs on. Let the smoking continue. We'll put the wing lights and the logo on as well as the turn-offs. Some weird sort of ghosty Terry effects going on the outline. I remember that this didn't used to be on XPlane, but in the last update, or maybe it was the one before, they started to introduce this sort of ghosting, especially like when there's, you know, bright light reflecting on an otherwise dark scene like this. I'm not sure what that's about. But again, we don't really notice it in any other way, but I have noticed it before. You know, you get bright sunlight glinting. Doesn't have to be at night, it can be in the shade as well, but you got a bit of sun glinting and you get these crazy effects there. I'll set the speed down to 220 because I believe that is the restriction that's coming, and it is max 220 even, so we'll set it 220. And let's also have a look at landing speed. So we'll come over to performance calc. Now there's a really quick way you can do this to be like really accurate. Landing perf, weight from sim, weather from sim, and there's the numbers. Now, if you want to be more precise, put in a bit of time getting the runway length, airport elevation, and runway heading. But just quickly pressing that is going to almost ballpark you the number. Now, let's start twidgeting with this and see how much it's going to change it. So here we see the re-ref of 136. So... there we see runway length is, let's call it 8.4, we'll round it off. Airport elevation, there we see it 632. Remember the airport overall was 666. Where was that? And of course now it doesn't say 666. Where did I get 666 from? It said it somewhere, didn't it? Anyway. 252. I think actually it was from... yeah, there it is. Alright, so runway slope. Well, slightly lower here, slightly higher there. I mean, keep it on 0, 0. I'm just going to go 0, 1 up just because it's going to be about that, right? OAT, well, we don't have it except what we had 2 days ago, which was 25 degrees. I'm not sure I trust it. So I'm going to leave that standard. Barometric, and again we're talking 2 days ago, was 1012. And the only way we can figure that out into altimeters, unless you use a calculator, is using something like this. I'll use the standby. So we'll dial in 1012 on the QNH there, and that's going to give us something like 2989. So let's put that in. And so now we see VREF 136, and so I can't remember if it was 136 or 137 before, but either way, having put all that effort in, you can see the numbers are basically the same. Granted, it does affect our the calculations for the auto brakes, but you know, it's common sense anyway. So So let's set the books for the re-ref and auto brake based on runway length. There we see 8.4. So apparently we can get away with minimum. It's going to use around 7,000 feet. Let's have a little look at what it looks like. Well, yeah, so we really want to be vacating on Bravo. I think if we vacate on Alpha, we need to be slamming on really a bit uncomfortably. So let's aim for Bravo. And I think the way to do that is either to go medium brakes or go minimum. And then as we start to basically safely plant down and we're level, go manual braking on top of that. I'll tell you what, let's just go middle. I'm going to set that now. So middle brake set. Well, our descent rate is continuing real nice here, and we've got about 4 minutes until that waypoint where we need to be at 11 and reduced to 220. Well, we've got 5,000 feet to go, and then the speed to bleed. And we've got about 4 minutes to do it in. So 2 minutes for the height, 2 minutes for the speed. We're going to be around about there. I'm not going to ease off my vertical speed. I'm going to keep it on. Because the faster we go, the more parasitic drag we create. And it looks like we need it. We're starting to get the radio reflections in here for the land. I don't think any of that's weather. I'll take a look at the frame rate here. It's actually higher than it was before, even though we are getting reflections. Let's drop the range back. I'm going to turn it off in a sec and see. Let me just so there's no arguments about the view. Let me just, I'll tell you what. Let me just check that I can check back. Again, we need to see this and this for the frame rate. There we go. It says 40. Turning it off, coming back, and it says 41, 43. Turn it back on. It says, I tell you what, the difference is basically negligible. It used to knock the frame rate in half, so I'm guessing Felis has managed to put this onto another thread somehow. Make sure we don't drop through 11. Should have really had that in place before. I'm glad I noticed it. So 220, so let's set this over now for go around and for speed. And I'm going to turn the auto throttle on now. My gut reckons again 2 minutes will expand. We've got about 13 miles to go to my gut. We're at 300 knots. We're on height. We need to be 220 and then potentially continue our descent on. For this VOR DME there we see it's at 17. We're 29 miles. I see no reason not to tune your side in as well. We've got nothing else to use. Granted, we could use the ILS, but no. I'm going to set your side to 083. That's just going to remind me when to start the turn onto final. 083. And I then need to track in on 256. 256 on the heading, or the track. 083 is the radial that we need to start the turn. Now my heading is something like 301 it looks like, just in case we need to change. Speed 240. We've got the speed markers in place, so we're not much above slats out speed there. This here's flaps 1, which is basically just slats. And I think I'm going to wind the time back just so we've got a little bit more light. So forgive. There we go. Let's go with something like that. Oh, what else could we do? Yeah, let's right around there. I'm going to leave it there. Alright, Mai got 3 miles to go, and at that point, again, I was going to try and move in, what's it, Whiskey Charlie 334, is that in? Now, we've then got Pinrow, and then Whiskey Charlie 334. I'll tell you what, I'm just now, from here, going to go direct Whiskey Charlie 334. So direct, where are we here? Whiskey Charlie, numerics, 334. Yes. Enter. Direct to. And then based on that, if we switch back to the flight plan, and I know yours thinks we're going to Ponro, but that's irrelevant. It's going to be Whiskey Charlie 334. I'll tell you what, we'll tell it your side as well. Whiskey Charlie, just so there's no confusion between the systems at all. Now once we're there, it's then a turn to Whiskey Charlie 330, and what that means is from here to here, and that should be basically the 17 arc. See, we're actually inside the arc here, we're going the wrong way. Let's switch to heading, right hand turn. This is completely ballsed up. You know what? Teardrop all the way round, because we're inside here. Actually, of course not. We're still there. We're heading south here. We need to be... We're going the wrong way around the DME arc. Yeah, that was my mistake. I'll tell you what. We need to be inside to remain within the protected area, because we know as long as we remain within 25, it's 9.1. We're above that here at 11. Let's extend the slats. Where we did have a view. There we go, this view here. There come the slats. To help us fly a little slower, so I'm going to keep this turn going. What do we want? Yeah, I realise now we're going to get a little too close, but as long as we stay within 25 miles, we can push ourselves back out on the other side and then hook back up with this arc. For some reason, yeah, a little discrepancy there through these systems. It could just be that they have been drifting for a while and they haven't had a good opportunity to align or refine their alignment. Yeah, so I'm gonna guess we're somewhere around here now. We're making our way around this way, and so I'm looking to basically head this way, so I don't know. We can go something like that, 125, and then we're going to keep an eye on this distance. Now, what sort of heights here? Well, flight level 13, and then here, kind of where we were, flight level 090. And so 090 is in. Vertical speed, make sure we don't drop through, and I'm going to just start a real gentle drift down, about 500-600 feet a minute. We're on the max speed we were allowed, which was 220. Speed now is, distance is starting to move away. We certainly don't need to go that far. Again, it was 17 DME, we're almost at 14. And then as soon as that hits, we need to be over here, almost north. And so I think we should almost start the turn now. That corrected really nice and quick. I was not expecting to correct that mistake as quick as we did. So based on that, we can descend a little quicker as well. 15.5. It really turns quite quickly at this speed, does the 7.4. Let's get a few more degrees in. One thing that I neglected to look at was the minimums, and that would appear to be about 480. It's 478 to be precise, but we're not going to be precise because we can't, but we can certainly put 480 in. It's a 3-degree final descent, and we want to be 5,500 for WC 330, so we're going to descend to that now, 5.5. Coming up to 17 now, so let's start this arc. Hiya, sweetie. You're coming to join us again. You're going to be good this time. She's waiting for me to go to bed, really. And I couldn't get to sleep, sweetie, that's all. But I think we'll manage it this time. Well, we're dropping through 10. With all that distraction, I forgot to put the inboard lights on. Cabin crew can stay busy for now. We'll put the flight start switches on, ready for landing. And so with the outboard lights to go, once we're CTL, that's about it. Continue the left-hand turn to stay within the arc. We're drifting out, so we'll give it... And the turn to final is... Is it now? It is, it's now. So let's continue the turn on to final. 256 degrees. We just see it shooting through there. Let's increase the vertical speed. Increase the flaps. Reduce the speed. I'm going to set up the speed brakes because I think we're going to get quite busy now. And let's have a look then. So we're more or less in line there. Let's get VOR loc on, which is going to take us down, not the localizer, but the VOR 256, which is what it should be, 256. And at distance 7.4, we need to be at 2.9, so we're cleared all the way down now to 2.9. Kinda high, so let's increase, and I'm going to dump the gear, and I may even put the boards out. Go flaps 10.
Gears down, green light. Flaps 10.
What's that? 7.4, and what we got? 13, so we've got about 7 miles to go. I'm going to ease the boards off. I don't know, we'll do it now. Boards away, rearm them. Gears down, flaps 10. And we'll ease off this vertical speed. 4 miles to lose now. About 2,000 feet. Still kind of ambitious, isn't it? Bearing in mind, I'll tell you what, we are just going to throw the boards up one more time. Let's just get it over and done with. That's when I was in my flight training. It says something needs doing. Get it over and done with quickly. Don't try and eke it out. And I think this is one of those times where that's what I need to do. So we've got about 1,000 feet to go.
1,000 to level off.
Now let's get rid of the boards. And we'll reduce speed to 180. Runway is in sight, and we'll assume tower says Avianca, Columbia 7472, you are CTL. Thank you. Thrust, we're on speed, go around in case we need it.
Flaps 20.
Check. And with runway visual, I'm going to go over to the heading, move that over, and sweetie, I just need my arm for landing, and then you can lay on it again, alright? Let's disconnect. Autopilot off. Auto throttle off as well. My plane. flaps 25.
Flaps 25.
And we're shooting for an approach speed right around there, about 145-ish. That should bring it back, 143. That seems very stable, and if we have a quick glance down here what the wind's doing, 10 knots or less. That clicking is me rolling the trim wheel back. Clear out that. And the DME down there on the VOR, I'm sure it says it was either 1.7 or 1.8 when we were at the runway threshold. It was something like that. Wasn't like an ILS that reads about 0. Coming in a little steep here. 4 weights. I think what I'm going to do is just put a little bit of forward slip on to help bleed off the speed and the height. As soon as I see that first red come on, we'll let go of the slip. I'm now going to slip the other way.
Sink rate. Pull up.
There's the minimums. There's the first red.
Up.
And yeah, with a little bit of slipping, we've resolved that situation. Let's go flaps 30. 2 white, 2 red.
Flaps 30.
So Felis has addressed the situation where flaps 30 gave this massive balloon on lift. 2 white, 2 red.
$50, 40, 30,
Closing the power.
10.
And that was nice and gentle.
Check reverse.
Minus, oh my god, 49 foot a minute. That was probably the softest landing I've ever done in this. 80 knots there. Here was the exit we were wanting. I'm going to manual brake,
60 knots.
idle the engines, stow in the reversers. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the destination. By codes Sierra Alpha Whiskey Charlie that I couldn't pronounce, and I don't want to butcher it again because I'm too tired. Hope you have enjoyed the flight there, highlighting the map there in South America, our destination. We've got the world times here as well. Until next time, wherever in the world you may be, let's have a quick replay, and then that'll call it. Toggle replay, rewind, rewind, rewind. And again, I rewind using the controls because it, rather than dragging the slider, because it captures the all the flight controls properly. Versus if you just drag that, sometimes if you use modules, it can miss them, and then the replay goes all wrong. Oh, we need to be a bit further than that, I think. Right around there. Yeah, so I recall feeling that just a hair of a crosswind from the right, and if I remember, I think I just put a tiny bit of rudder in during the flare, but there it is. Yeah, tiny bit of rudder, and that is right there one of the most gentle landings you'll ever see. And it was nice, really, that we didn't balloon. I have to say, Felis has just done a fantastic job with the plane. I mean, as you see, all the systems are in there and working. But the way it flies, the way it feels is spot on. And certainly compared to the 747-8 by SSG, this is leaps and bounds ahead of that. And I'm not sure why. Don't know what they do so wrong or what Felis does so right. I mean, there are other modules that do a really good job as well, but 7.4 by SSG is not a patch on the... Again, just talking purely how it feels to fly. Clearly all the systems inside this is way and above, and then, you know, the price reflects that as well. There's the touchdown. All right, one more from the packs, and then that really will be it. Tell you what, let's have the... Where are we here? That's it, runway shot. That's what I was going to go for. Clear that out. Zooming in. Yeah, there you see, just a tad on the rudder. There's the touchdown. Beautiful. A slightly uphill facing runway. You don't see this from the top, but obviously on the camera on the ground you see all the little lumps and bumps in the runway that are not obvious. Alright, hope you enjoyed. Until next time, take care everybody. Bye bye.